Right, new video series on how we can fix the global economy. We're going to start by comparing left and right wing political ideologies. For the topic of economics, both of these choices are mostly wasting your time. In this video, I'm going to briefly cover the differences between these two approaches, with the good and the bad, and then what we can actually focus on to fix our economic problems. Broadly speaking, what is the difference between left wing and right wing ideologies? A left-wing ideology focuses on equality, social justice, and collective responsibility. Commonly, this means government intervention to address things like social inequalities, and that can also mean providing numerous public services. In contrast, right-wing ideology focuses on limited government and, generally, free market economics. Commonly, this means promoting the importance of personal responsibility and limited amounts of regulation. Today, we're only going to focus on the economic differences between the left and the right. Let's start with the left and think about some of the aspects that are good and bad. A left-wing government is one that will usually be more actively involved in providing public services, enabling wealth redistribution, and correcting market failures. Correcting social inequality and providing more public services can commonly necessitate higher amounts of taxation, which can result in larger governments. The good thing with the observations from the left is that they acknowledge that there is a problem in the economy. Most people can see that there is an increasing amount of wealth inequality. Some of that inequality can be justified if it is due to the merits from people's hard work. You want to incentivize people to create businesses that become successful. But there is also inequality that is caused by our economic systems. Land, money, and perpetual shares of ownership within companies are all commonly flawed economic systems. These systems can reward people with excessive amounts of unearned income. Land value taxes, money taxes, and temporary shares of ownership can help with fixing these systems. I covered these problems and solutions in the previous video series. Many people that advocate for left-wing governments understand the importance of fixing the economy. Most of us can see there's clearly a problem. But the problem with these governments is they haven't been creating policies that deal with the problems with the economic systems, namely land, money, and company share structures. Many left-wing governments today are still applying taxes on things like labor, corporation profits, and property development. The problem with these taxes is that they are all distortionary taxes. So a left-wing government that increases these taxes will disincentivize people from providing their labor, creating companies, and constructing new property. Increasing the taxation rates also incentivizes people to move themselves or their companies abroad, to countries that are keeping the rates of taxation low. When you tax the wrong things, you can easily weaken the incentives in the economy. A huge problem with the left-wing ideology, as it's currently adopted, is excessive taxation on the wrong things. Taxes that commonly increase the problems of economic stagnation. But what about right-wing governments? A right-wing government will generally look to minimize its involvement in the economy. This can mean less public services and more emphasis on private companies providing those different services. This makes it easier to keep taxation rates low, which helps to incentivize more economic activity, as now people are keeping more of the income they generate for themselves. The good thing with a right-wing government is low taxation can help to encourage people within the economy to contribute and provide their labor or to create new companies. Limited amounts of regulations can also make it easier to start a new business and simply try something new. But there are some serious problems with a right-wing approach when you haven't fixed the economic systems. If people are able to generate large amounts of unearned income within the economy due to a lack of taxation, it becomes easier to accumulate assets that generate more unearned income. Land and money are examples of economic systems that can generate compounding returns, which leads to consolidations in ownership. Perpetual shares of ownership within companies mean that earlier contributions within the company can eventually receive excessive amounts of unearned income. And they can potentially receive this unearned income for eternity due to the fact that the shares never lapse or expire. So a smaller and limited government doesn't fix the economy. Without adopting the right foundations for our economic systems, it can actually speed up the growth of wealth inequality. The people that have the highest amount of income can more easily reinvest it into assets that generate them more unearned income. Left-wing governments can more commonly increase the amount of economic stagnation, and right-wing governments can often be enabling a growing amount of wealth inequality. Both of these types of government are not taxing the right things, nor are they fixing each of our economic systems. The solution to this problem is to focus on the specific economic systems and identifying each of their problems and solutions. Land, money, and perpetual shares of ownership within companies are fundamental economic systems. Currently, these economic systems are enabling growing amounts of wealth inequality. If you tax the right things, like land and money, you can actually incentivize more economic activity rather than disincentivizing productive economic activity due to taxing the wrong things, like labor, companies, and property development. The great thing about simplifying a government's approach to taxation and solving the problem of what they need to tax is it greatly simplifies government. With a simpler approach to taxation, there's less things the government needs to worry about. They can now focus on other problems that they need to solve. The solution to our political problems is to understand and focus on fixing each economic system. This is what will prevent important assets like land or money from being increasingly owned by a small subset of the population. Fixing these economic systems will mean simplifying government and how they handle taxation. Voters wouldn't need to keep moving between left and right ideologies in the hope that one of them will fix the economy. At the moment, neither the left nor the right will fix the economy. Advocating for high-level ideologies can sound great, but it doesn't get to the root of the problem. Instead, we need to focus our efforts on understanding each of the economic systems to identify solutions that we can experiment with to then verify and confirm they actually work. If we can fix our economic systems and adopt the right taxation approaches, the left versus right political debate for economics will increasingly become a thing of the past.